Turn it off. Wait till you get pretty. Turn that thing off.
You gotta see Mom. I've been taking pictures of Mama. She said, "Oh, Grandma."
I got the VCR out of the car.
I'm good. You didn't. Why not?
Robin, after supper, I want you to put up this. Don't make a picture on this clutter table. You know I'm a bad housekeeper.
Dirty clothes. I know it's already done.
Why? Why not?
Feel good.
Okay. You can move.
Quit. I think you're taking a picture of you and all look good. So you work out there. Quit. Quit. Wasting your batteries.
Alright.
Then knock it down. I got it. Again. Yeah. Darn. Twice. Now, did you get the whole thing? Did you get the shot?
Yeah.
Don't you dare.
It's got a red light flashing. Does that mean it's not?
It better mean it's not shaking. It
It's too
better
dark.
mean. Next Sunday.
He's filming it. Robin's filming it.
I hope he enjoys it.
Something slippery.
You better watch your brother now. He's taking every move everybody makes.
I wish, I wish we had that thing over here. She's
I
just
gotta get that in there. And take Jimmy mopping the floor.
It turns on, it gets hot, but then get out there crunchy. It gets wings or something like that on a certain heat, but Miranda didn't come.
You don't, they're coming, but they're not here yet.
Robin, I don't know what to get Jimmy for Christmas. You know what to get Jimmy for Christmas, Robin?
She's asking you a question. Are you trying to think?
Say what?
What can I get my husband for Christmas?
I don't know. You think about it.
Get you giving me a glass of water with ice in the buggy. Well, did y'all ride? Oh, come on, Robin.
Get you.
Yeah, she rode. She wouldn't ride the motorcycles that we did wheeling. You know, she wouldn't have nothing to do with that. She wanted to ride the Ferris wheel. It ran out of tickets, and I didn't really want to go on it. And it was a mile long, a line a mile long. I said, no. Maybe your daddy will take you. Maybe
She
your
rode that
daddy
other
will
thing.
take you. Huh? Yeah, she, and this alligator
Slide.
thing, and
How
then
about
she rode
roller
a
coaster?
slide. Well, it was sort of like a miniature roller coaster, a little alligator thing. She rode right in
Right on the
front.
front.
She made sure she got right on the alligator's head. And
They gonna do bang out in the face?
that thing went
Smile.
that thing went round and round, and she wouldn't look. There was another thing that went up in the air, you know, like a spaceship, and she wouldn't even look at us. She kept looking towards the middle. She wouldn't even look at us. She was waving. That was so funny. Then she went on a slide, a big slide thing. She couldn't go by herself, and she was all like that. And some guy goes, "Here, when my daughter." I don't know many ghost stories. Nothing ghost. Tell you things that happened that my grandmama seen and my grandmother. When my grandmother one time was my mother. One time.
Yeah.
My granddaddy kept telling her she was reading these old love stories. They wasn't dirty stories like they were right today. Like those old love, true stories. They were.
I can't hear you.
Huh?
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
I can hear you now.
I said she would read love stories, but they wasn't dirty stories like they write today. Them old love stories.
Yeah.
They just had a villain in it, you know. An old villain was always trying to do something to the man, you know, and to steal the woman, but like that, but wasn't dirty. And Mama loved to read them. So my granddaddy, he was very religious. He didn't think she should read such stories. So she sat up at night. They lived in the country, and right around the house was the turpentine woods. People were shipping boxes along, and he had a big farm. And so one night he kept telling her she'd read till midnight. She should go out on the porch to the house, a big old house, shaped like that, the back porch. And she'd go out there and get her water before she went to bed at night. So one night she went out there and she heard chains a rattling. And she said the moon was shining so pretty and bright. So she said, well, that's mighty late for a turpentine wagon to be out this time of night, because they had chains, you know, with wagon of turpentine on it.
Yeah.
So she said, she kept getting closer and closer, and she looked around the corner of the house, and there came the biggest dog, and he's wrapped in chains and dragging. So she screamed and fainted, passed out. My granddaddy run out there, he thought something had her. So she told her, he kept told her the old devil was going to get her, you know, one night. So when he run out there and grabbed her and asked her what happened, she told him when she come to. He said, "I told you the old devil was gonna get you." So the next morning, her brothers got out, Uncle Ed and all of them, and they looked and they never saw a sign of a train. You know, those chains dragging. They didn't see a sign of it.
Are the footprints?
Huh?
Are the footprints in?
No, they couldn't see where it was, but she saw it. My mother wasn't scared of nothing. She and my daddy both, but not afraid. My granddaddy told me one day, he said, "Honey, how can you be so coward scared?" I don't know. I said, "Somebody in my family must be yelling." He said, "'Cause your mother wasn't scary, and your daddy certainly wasn't." And so, but my mother wasn't afraid, but she saw that just so natural, and you heard it coming before she saw it. And so she screamed, and I mean, when she saw that big dog was on the chain, but they couldn't find no sign of the chain to that. Then when my grandmother one time, she was, after my mother was a young girl, her grandma's sister, Aunt Becky, you remember going down down there where we had the picnic?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ashbrook was Anderson's son, but it was Anderson's grandmother, first husband. He died, he got sick. His name was Dick Clark, I believe. And he got sick. My granddaddy would go nurse him, take care of him at night. So Grandma went out to lock the smokehouse or something. Anyhow, the moon was shining bright. She called to Murtis, to Mama. Said, "Grandma, what time? What time is it?" Well, Mama said she looked at the clock and it said 7 o'clock. But so when she come in, she says, "How come, Mama, how come you to ask me what time it was you outside?" She said, "Well, I just wanted to know because your Uncle Dick is dead." She said, "How do you know?" Said he rode up to the gate and looked at me on his black stallion. Said he had on his big black hat and he had on his and said, I was, so after a while my granddaddy came in. And Grandmama said to him, "David, Dick's dead, isn't he?" He said, "Yes." She said, "He died at 7 o'clock. He said, "Who came by and told you, Mother?" She said, No. He said, "Well, who told you?" He said, "Well, he just rode up there on his horse and looked at me on his black stallion, and I knew he was dead." And said, "Coroner said it was 7 o'clock. So you see things like that. I could see things like that. One time I was down there, they lived near the river, on a big old house near Flint River. And Grandma was out on the watershed down by the steps, going out, and she was catching some water, hydrant. And off from the house was a highland, a windmill. They had a big windmill up there, and also the brown cane and brown sugar cane made syrup was up on that hill next to the house. And so she called my granddaddy, told him to move the lamps. See, they didn't have electric lamps. They light. And so she kept telling him to move the lamp, and he said that it was, she said a man was looking at her from here up. And so when she got her eyes off of him, he disappeared. But she could see things like that, but I don't ever could. Then her aunt, her great aunt was, Grandma's aunt, was an old maid, and she'd lived with them years, and she's good about taking care of sick people. Child got burned, girl got burned. She'd walk a long ways at night, and doctor this child, and so she would get light with splinters, because they didn't have a lantern in them days, and stay around to fight. And she said sometime there'd be a person walking beside of her, alongside of her, and another time there'd be a dog walking along. And so she first tried to talk, and she said she found out that she just felt like the Lord was taking care of her, and so she never did question the Lord. When it got to the fence for her to get over the gate, get to the child where they put her there, it disappeared. And because it was a long way, he said that either a dog would appear side of her, or either a person would be there, but you couldn't see him, he didn't talk, he just walked along. She said the Lord was sending
You
somebody.
couldn't see him?
Told a woman, a dog appeared at this woman's house, and so they didn't really name it, because it just appeared, but he followed her everywhere she went. Sometimes she'd be walking and he'd hold her hand. And
Well,
so,
why did she say, why wasn't she worried about it?
huh?
Why wasn't she scared of it?
No, she wasn't scared of the dog, but the dog disappeared at the house, and they fed him, looked after him. So, but wherever she went, that dog followed her. So one day, a man came there, and so she was there alone, I think, with him, and so he asked her some questions, and she answered. He kept making like he didn't hear, and kept getting closer. Then he started to water, and that dog got in front of her, and so he said, "Well, that dog bites." She said, "I wouldn't be surprised." So when he saw the dog and looked at him, he jumped in his car and left. So right after that, the dog disappeared. So she said she thought she knew then that God sent that dog. He knew that man was coming there, because God knows everything, and he knew that man was going to come there and going to harm her. So he sent the dog, and the dog stayed with her right around wherever she was outside, and till that man left, and the dog disappeared. The best one I ever heard, though, was a young boy in the Second World War. Or maybe it was
World War
First
II?
Yeah. He was about 18 years old, 19, and he said he knew about God, but he hadn't, really, had just sort of let it slide by, God's and all. And so they were out in a tattoo place, shot out there, and they were there, and they got word to go out and meet the Germans, and said it was a false report. Said that the Germans were just mowing them down, and they got word to retreat. Well, he said he and his buddy had three boys was wounded, and they were wounded in their legs.
Yeah.
But they said he just couldn't go and leave them lying there knowing the Germans would kill them, couldn't finish them. So he started praying, and he said, out of the forest came a shaggy horse.
The shaggy horse out of the forest?
Out of the forest came a shaggy horse. So they laid those boys across the back, and he and that other boy hobbled down to where they came from, Chattoo, where the hospital part was. And they took them off of that horse and carried them in. And then when they got their legs tended to, they went outside to see about the horse. And the horse disappeared. And nobody had ever seen that horse. So he said then he came back to God. He knew God had sent that horse from his prayer, that he was, and it saved him. So he said from then on, he was really devoted to the Lord, because the Lord sent that horse when he started praying. He wanted to know if God was still there, and he did. Well, I know this friend of mine she worked for Sam Riley's, and her oldest girl was Jimmy's age, and then her husband was in service. He came back, she had this little boy, and then a little girl later. Terry was his name, and he was a handsome rascal. So he went in service, and he was in Vietnam. So Josephine was Baldur's cousin. So we were real close friends. And we went to church together, and every Sunday I talked with her. She thought walk out with us in the car, because her husband should pick her up. And I asked Joe that Sunday, I said, Joe, when's Terry coming home? Our boy, I called him. She says, said he'll be home, said he wrote me he'd be home Thanksgiving. And says that he'll be home Thanksgiving. and with his feet on my table, and I told her that was just wonderful. So that evening she got home, she got word that he was dead. And so they went and told her. So another friend that was in my Sunday school class, her daughter grew up with Terry. And she grew up with Terry. And so she said that was the only brother she had, because they played together. Because she had a sister, but she didn't have a brother. So she said to he write to her. She was married, and he come to see her in the hospital with her baby. And so he said that he wrote her, he went to see her before he left. And so he wrote her and told her, says, I told Mother I'd be home for Thanksgiving, but said I won't. Said God has shown me what, God has shown me that I'm not coming home, that I'm going to die. But I want you to let Mother see this in a year, in a little while after I'm gone, so that she'll know that the Lord had warned me that I was going to die, and that says I'm a Christian, and said God knows that I'll be all right. He said I'm going to be all right. He said God knows, has let me know that He's going to take me. And so she said he was shot, and so it just
How?
the Vietnamese killed him.
Oh.
So, but you see how wonderful it was. He's a Christian, and God let him know that he was going to die. So you see, that satisfied his mother so much better, and Daddy, knowing that God had let him know that he was going to die, and that he was right with God. So she knows that her son is in the arms of Jesus, or up there with him. So God let him know. And so he said, you tell Mother that I'm going to, that I'm ready to go, and the Lord just let me know that He's going to take me. And tell her not to worry about me, because I'll be with God. So Josephine, of course, she grieved because she loved him so much, but then to know that he was with God was the most important thing. Because when you lost and going to torment, that's too bad. That's forever and ever, and get no forgiveness there. Because in the Bible, when the rich man died, a poor man begged crumbs from the rich man's table. And when he died, he fell in buried in a pauper's grave, because he had no money to be buried. The rich man had a big funeral. When he woke up in hell and burning up. And he was begging Lazarus for the poor man to come down there. Abraham let Lazarus, the poor man, come down there and cool his tongue. He was burning up. And they said that there's no way you can come. There's a black between you and I, hell and heaven, no place. And he begged them then to send send prophets or apostles, tell his people. He said they wouldn't believe it. To send them from the dead. They wouldn't believe it. So, I told but I know Terry, she told Terry she had the letter to show her Mother what he wrote her, that he was all right with Jesus. Look at that little baby crying. So, but,
what about that time? Here, what about the ones about here when you were living here?
who?
The ones about when you were living here.
Living.
Grandma,
Here.
Grandma, tell us some of the funny stories.
What? I don't know, nothing really funny, I know of.
Like, what's that?
Well,
Like
I know
there's
one time Grandma Butterburt was down there in this house, and Murders was down there with us that time. And Grandma was she wasn't scared, and yet she was too. When she had a gun with her, she wasn't scared. So, but that time, the porch on the side going into the kitchen in the hallway. Somebody busted the side of the screen, there's a cotton basket over there where you go into the dining room. And somebody in the house was high up on the back because in the winter sometimes the river come out, it come up under the house, the front part was low down. And so that you could walk under the house on the kitchen dining room part of it. So she was up there, they were up there dragging. I mean, she was, what all she'd do, Grandpa, bless his heart, was had a lamp going up under the house trying to see who it was. And so he said it, so somebody, Grandma was saying what she gonna do if she saw one of them, this and that and the other. So she he pulled her, somebody pushed a basket on Grandma's foot, and so Mama, Murray said Grandma, she jumped up and down, so she almost, she didn't shoot, it's a wonder she didn't shoot her foot though, but so, but it was, said that it was so funny. Another time I was down there when Grandma, we heard a noise in Alvin, my cousin is a doctor. He was staying with us down there. Grandpa was in Atlanta visiting Aunt Bessie, his daughter. And Grandma'd go and he'd stay home, and then he'd go and she'd stay home. But me and Al would go stay with her. So we heard this noise in the back of the house. Alvin had gone down to the stills where Mama and Papa lived to have grist mill. Papa was in the turpentine business. And he said, but anyhow, she said, saw this noise, and we heard it, kept saying, well, Grandma said,
What'd you say?
so Grandmother's people lived on the place, and they went down there, and Grandma outrun me down there, these people's houses. I said, Lord, you could start, Granny couldn't have got around, but she outrun me. I was about 13 years old, 12 or 13. And so,
Well,
and but anyway, there's, just things like that happen. But, one time I was driving Mr. Carl and Daddy down here in Blue Woodville out in the woods.
yeah.
And so the scrub oaks, oak trees out there, and the sand was, it's not like it is now. If you got out of one rut of the sand, you couldn't hardly get out of one and get in another. And I was driving Papa through the wood, and he was looking at the turpentine trees where they're dipping, could see some of them skipped them,
Yeah.
They, every pine tree that had a thing, they were supposed to dip it, chip it. And if they could skip one, they just had to do so many hunt about 1,000, So he keep his eyes was good, he could discern every one. So he was busy watching and come to two roads like this, one this way and one this way. Well, I kept saying, Papa, which road to take? Which road to take? Because we got out of that sand bed, it was so deep, you couldn't cut across hardly. And he was so busy watching that, he didn't pay no attention to me, so I just took right through the woods. I was knocking down oak tree bushes and little everything. And he jumped up and said, where are you going? I said, well, I couldn't get you to listen to me to tell you which road to take, and I'm afraid I'd get out of the wrong one, and then it'd be hard to get into it. But I woke him up that time. Gene never did let me forget that. He teased me about it. I said, yeah, but I had to do something. I was afraid Papa would fuss at me for getting in the wrong road. It was so deep sand beds. So anyhow,
story to tell.
Huh?
I
No,
have
wait, their grandma tells stories. Their grandma.
Well, Granny used to tell things at the field house. You see her and Aunt Bessie see a man crawling around their house and trying.
Well, Grandma, what happened to all the times when you were here and something?
Who?
Remember when you were here and something happened?
A funeral?
No, something happened. When you're here and everything happens, you know,
I don't remember.
the guy with the big foot, knocking on the door or something.
Driving a big truck.
No, with a big foot.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what you're talking
Well,
Oh
you
remember?
got, yeah,
about. Huh?
do you have any more stories?
Oh, remember that one when you
What's
had
that on going up yonder?
Oh, that's the camera that always does that.
Huh?
It always
This,
does.
the battery's charging up for tomorrow.
Hmm?
The battery's charging up for
Oh,
tomorrow.
I see. Well, I don't know what you're talking about, not son.
You have,
You know when you had to
Melissa.
set the oil on the porch and
Had a walk?
remember when
No,
the guy knocked on the door with big feet?
Oh. Well, my land alive, that happened. You see, I was sitting here and the curtains were thin.
Thin?
Can't see through these curtains.
yeah.
And I know it must have been a big old nickel from the highway. And he kept beating on the door, and I wouldn't go around there and peep at him. I was afraid he'd see me, he might have a gun.
Yeah.
So I kept saying, who is it? Who is it? And I said, tell me who you are. They wouldn't do it. So I run here to the telephone, and my neighbor then, they were on my line.
Yeah.
And so Mr. Harvey on the other side talking to his son, and I said, Mr. Harvey, y'all let me, let me call Jimmy. I said, somebody's on my, knocking on my door and won't stop and won't tell me who they are. He said, we'll be right over. So Homer, now bless his heart, he's in the hospital and his mind is worse than Aunt Bert because he's just gone. And and his wife's blind in one eye and one leg amputated. I feel so sorry for him. And so they jumped the fence and come running over here. Well, he could see they were coming from that way. He could see them coming and hear them. He ran. So it rained a little bit that day. Oh, Jamie tracked him from the highway and up over your daddy's, he passed your daddy's car. He was working in town and by my old car, and he said his footprints were that big. So I felt like it was a big old nipple. If I'd opened the door, I'd been dead.
My foot's about that big now.
No, not quite. So I'd have probably been dead. We see a woman last week. Had somebody knocked on the door, and a stupid woman went and stood her ass and who it was and all like that. She opened the door. So we raped that woman. So a young boy come in at the door the other day.
The other day?
Yeah, just the other day. He is a 16-year-old boy. He had a blowout right out there. And he said, I said, well, I'm going to let you in and out. He said, I'm not going to work. Said, I have a blowout out there and I want to call my daddy. I said, come on, you nice boy. He talked to me and all, and he called his daddy. And he asked just a word why I told him. But he said, it's right out there. I said, well, you tell your daddy's diagonal across from Lighthouse Children's Home, and he's got McDaniel 12 on the front of it. So he thanked me and went on back out to his car. But he was about 15, 16 years old, about 16, I think he said.
Yeah.
So, but anyhow, I tell you now, you just don't let people in your house every day and time. So a colored man come the other day, and I wouldn't open that door because the screen wasn't fastened. And he wants some deer meat from Jimmy.
Yeah,
And I talked to the window man. I told him Jimmy was gone, but he'd come back the last week. I mean, come back the first of the week or any time this week, Jimmy give him some. He told me he would. So Jimmy told me, said, yeah, I promised him some. And I said, so he just come at the wrong time.
Yeah.
But, one time my daddy, a Negro owed my daddy and him and He was a big old nigga. My daddy was slim. He never was fat. He was tall and slim. And this nigga picked him up, and they had a gun. He was gonna kill my daddy, and he just picked him up off this floor with a gun. But my daddy got the gun away from him, and he ran. My daddy shot at him, but he missed him. And that nigga went over in Alabama and stayed, but lived for years. And my uncle was a preacher, Papa's brother. And so one day, years and years later, he asked my granddad, my uncle, would Papa forgive him, that he's an old man then. And he says, yeah, I'm quite sure he would, because both of you old and no harm. That thing's been done a long time ago. Another time, a nigga owed my granddaddy. My granddaddy didn't use a gun, he used his fist. Yeah. So, Granddad Williams, he used his fist. And so this nigga met him in the road, and Grandpa asked him about his Papa was with him. Grandpapa asked him about the money he owed. So this nigger boy pulled out a gun and held him. And Papa had one. Papa grabbed his out and held it on them. So anyway, my granddad got that nigger out and gave him a whipping. He pushed his head down a gopher hole. So another man, a friend of his, long down, but they had lots, like he bought a lot, man. You didn't have to have it, this paper, this, that, and other. People were, if you said, I'll pay you so-and-so, you don't have to have no paper for it, because they're going to do it. It's by your word, see. The word was your bond, but nowadays it isn't. You know, people don't believe no people's word this day and time, because they don't keep it. So, this man was a good friend of Grandpa's, but they got disputing out Iron City. He said one lot of Iron City, lot of land there, was his, and it was my granddaddy's. So Grandpa got tired of arguing with him. He just picked him up and shoved him down the sugar barrel. He patted him like that. He said, Tom, let me out you. It's yours. But anyway, one time they said they had somebody put something, that was a terrible thing to do. They took a poor old cat and tied a long string to it and set the paper on fire, and that cat was behind it, and that cat come through the house, the porch wide open through the hallway, and all through that he could have burned up the barn and everything else on it. And so I don't know who did it, but anyway, I don't know how they got it out, but the old cat would have burned to death. But people did things like that. But Papa used to go colored people. They put on things and scare them. Now my daddy used to scare his brother. One time he and his oldest brother were just like that. They just loved one another. And so Remus was the younger one. He was going to scare him. He used to out in court, and they didn't have no roads, pathways, and no walks, to go into court. So Papa put on an old, let's see, well, they got an old bear cowhide, and they fixed it up to look like a bear, and so they put ropes on it. Uncle William got on one side of the pathway, Papa over in the other side in the woods, bushes. So Uncle Remus come along, and so Uncle Remus come along, and and when he saw it, he grabbed it, and so they pulled this away and pulled that way, and Uncle Remus was trying to get his knife out, and he was just as wrestling with that thing. He thought he had him a bear, And so finally, Uncle William couldn't help but laugh, and that gave it away. So because he just really tussling over that, thought he had him a bear, and it was Papa and him had fixed this he had fixed that thing up to scare him, and They always playing pranks like that on one another.
You got any more stories?
No,
You don't?
no,
What about those stories you told me?
That remember that time when colored guy tried to steal his bike?
what's that?
Remember that time when the colored man tried to steal a bike? Colored boy, colored man, whatever they call it.
Still what?
A bike.
A bike?
Uh-huh.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, 'cause I remember you telling it to me.
The only time that I know anything about a bicycle was at Uncle Angelo's down Mercy, Rex and Donna, and them had bicycles and they rode them over there,
Yeah.
and they had left them out in the carport, and some neighbors saw it, and there wasn't no niggers in that section, black people in that section around there at all, but them boys come by there and saw it, and they proceeded to have told Angelo and him about it. So he went out there, put it in this tin house, and locked it up, and put them out there. So Murray's had water in pots around that she catch rainwater. So next morning, they had been back, went all through it, and during the night, late part of the night, they had ducked their feet in all that water, and it had tracked it all around, but they didn't get them bicycles. They couldn't open the door. And all, but they come back in the night to steal them, but they didn't get them, so.
That's all of them?
Yeah, that's all I don't remember. My grandmother was living, she could tell, my uncle could tell you about during the Civil War, how my grandfather, he wouldn't own slaves, he didn't think it was right. Because the people had slaves, they were mean to him, and he wasn't. He had one black man that worked for him, he called him Uncle Bill. So my granddaddy bushwhacked. You know what bushwhack? He wouldn't go to war. Because he said they were fighting on account of slavery, and he didn't have no slaves. So he had a lot of land, a lot of cattle out for bondage. He was known to have the most land of anybody. So he wouldn't fight. So my granddaddy Williams was just a young boy. And they were taking young boys, 16, 17 years old. So he didn't want to go either. So he and my granddaddy Yates that was Papa's daddy and my great-granddaddy. And they bushwhacked together. So they lived down on the creek most of the time. They made barges. And the creek was thick then, swamps around it. So one night my granddaddy went to a party, and him and another boy, and they told him, and men told him, said, now don't y'all step away. Stay together and they won't catch you. So they went to this party, and that night they come there axe hunting them, and my granddaddy fled, and when he did, they shot his necktie off. That was how close he got to get killed.
What's the necktie?
And so, anyhow, he got back down to he fled. He got back down to my granddaddy and them. They had left word to come on down to the Dead Lakes. And so the other boy, he went one way, and my granddaddy flew back to the creek. And they caught the other boy, but they never could catch my granddaddy and Papa's daddy. And they got on barges, and they would take trees and logs and wrap them together with these vines, and then they carried fish hooks in their hats and they catch fish. But, and that's where they went all up and stayed in the swamps where they would find. After the war was over with, because he did. One time the Yankees, one time some of the soldiers come down wanting hunt my granddad, and they went in the smokehouse with the bayonets. And grandma, Funderburg was young. She's about 13. She just told them. It's a wonder they didn't slap her. I do something to her. She said, "My dad is not no rat. He don't live in a hole." And so they asked her for the smokehouse. Well, they stole the horses, all the horses nearly, and took the horses and everything where they couldn't fly. So one of the horses had a colt, and they took the mare. So Grandma's mother went down and told the captain she wanted her horse. He said, "Can you prove it?" She said, "I know you got it." So she carried her colt. And when the colt ran to the mother, well, he let her have that horse. But that's the only one. But Grandma, they demanded the smokehouse key. They were going in and get their meat, and he'd cook it. Grandma threw it just as far as she could and came back. Said, "If you want it, go get it." She knew where it went, but they didn't. So they didn't bother. She said they went out and robbed some old hens that was sitting. Probably eggs were rotten. But back in them days, people would. I got some funny in good old days books where a man, a nigger comes, old nigger preacher come and asks this man did he have a barn he could sleep in or somewhere he could spend the night. He said, "Well, my daddy's house right down the place there, and he's dead." Said, "It's still fixed just like he left it. So you go around there and sleep if you like." So he said, "All right." So he went down there and he was sitting before the fire. This man had a black cat. And this black cat was sitting there side of the fire with him. And the man could throw his voice ventriloquist. So he got out and come down there and got the chimney corner, and he throwed his voice like the cat was talking. And the old cat said, "Me and you're the only ones here," or something like that. Old man Louie. And he kept talking to him directly. He says, "Well, I'm going to be here long." So he tore out running. And he said, when he got there, the man was there too. He didn't see him, but the cat too. The fellow was so hot and tired, but I think the cat talked to him some more, and I forgot what all that else happened. But I used to hear my granddaddy talk about how they used to scare him a long time ago. One time my daddy was trapping in the woods. He had a bunch of people working around, and there was a nigger church. Morning Star was the name of it. And he'd say to them colored people would say, I don't see how you go in there. It's haunted. He said, "It's not haunted either." He said, it's not the dead going out there, it's just the living. But my daddy wasn't scared. So one day they were preaching in there. The old preacher was round and curved like that in the pulpit, and windows back there in his pulpit. And a cat come running up the aisle. He said, Brother, what's that?" Out the window he went. Something got after an old cat. He come running up the aisle and bushed all tailed up. And he said, Brother, what's that?" And out the window he went and left them. So the preacher was what he was scared. So, my daddy wasn't afraid. this shirt button would never stay buttoned. His hand would be in and out, that gun was out just that quick. And boy, I seen he could there's peanuts in the air with his pistol. He could shoot a gun like a lamb. For this little boy, boy, he'd go turkey hunting, and they had turkey shoots. They wouldn't let him shoot but once, cause he'd get a turkey, and nobody else would get one. See, so when he got one, they wouldn't let him shoot no more. So Grandpapa always got his turkey, and then they wouldn't let him have no more, cause they knew that he'd get one every time he shot. So, but he could shoot, and I couldn't see. He was a good hunter.
Is that how it stores?
He loved the outdoor woods, and they used to, Grandpa, him used to put, after they got through with the farm in the year, fall of the year, they put canvas over the wagon and make them like a covered wagon. And they'd go to the coast, so they'd pick ham and all kinds of stuff, just sausage. But Papa, his brothers didn't hunt like he did. But all along the road, Papa would walk and kill squirrels and quail, and have all that kind of stuff going around there, all the way down to take them a week nearly to go down there, in the wagon. And they'd get a lot of salt fish and stuff and bring back. My granddad Funberg and them went. They used to go every year too, and they'd do that. So one year, my granddad thought, well, he'd buy me a new mule, because one of the mules he thought was getting old, and he wouldn't, you shouldn't take him. So he said, so he bought this new mule, and when the time come to go, the mules would get so frisky, they knew it was time to go to the coast. Oh, they would go taking on, so. So finally, when they hooked up this new mule to the wagon, and they started off, that other mule just hollered and took on and jumped the fence. Never had jumped before, a high fence. And he walked right alongside of the other mule just like he used to pull it. And he went all the way to the coast, and he had the best time down there, they said. Said he wasn't a bit of trouble and all, but he loved to go to the coast. And he rode right side of that mule all the way, yet he wasn't pulling. But he walked just like he was pulling it. And they thought it was so unusual, because that mule, he could have stayed home and rested.
Yeah.
But he didn't want it. He wanted to go down that coast. And so that's what he did. And they thought it was so unusual for him to come do that. If my uncle was a big one, Uncle Remus, he could tell you the funniest thing that happened. The little church at home where Gene goes now, it was the big wide doors, it still is, but it's been remodeled. And a long time ago, my grandma's book, songbook, they didn't have no music to it. It was just like verses, like the poems in there, but it was songs. And everybody didn't have one, they couldn't afford them. So the preacher he'd read it, he'd say whatever it was. Like this time, he said, "Amazing Grace, how sweet it sounds." That's one of the songs. And so about the time the doors would open like that, some people by the name of O'Toole's come along on a dump cart. That's back in the old days. Oxen dump cart. And just as got right in front of the door, the coupling pole come out and over the wind. And about the time he got "Amazing Grace, how sweet it sounds," he said, when all the tools hit the ground, that's all. He did, it wasn't that way, but the people were tools, tools. He said, when all those tools, and they sang it, and then he tried to tell them more. The more he told them that, the more they sang. Finally, he got it understood. Them old tools said a couple of them would come out, and they were lying out on the ground. So, but they'd sing anything he read to them, because they didn't have a songbook. That's back in the, way back in the days when people couldn't afford things like that.
Grandma, I got a joke for you. I got a joke.
You know what?
I got a joke.
Oh, you have? Well, what's your joke?
Why did the man throw the clock out the window?
Huh?
Why did the man throw the clock out the window?
Oh. Because he couldn't tell the time, I guess.
No, he wanted to see time fly.
Oh, is that right? Well, he made it fly, didn't
You have any more stories, Grandma?
he? Huh?
You have any more stories?
No, I don't know of any more, son. Boy, if our Granny Funderburg could have lived, she could have told you.
Son,
She'd tell us funny ones, and she'd tell us scary ones, and I'd say, well, I don't want to hear them scary, because I'll sleep with you tonight if you do. So, she'd tell us them real funny ones, but boy, it's 11 o'clock, isn't it?
yes, Lord.
Robin,
got-
I guess it's a
I got to get my
Are
murder.
you charging up for tomorrow?